Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage Podcast, episode 237. I'm Eric Berger, joined as always by my co-host Ryan Sinitsky. Hello.
Hey, that's me. I've got two thumbs, and I'm at home.
Me too. You might have noticed last week we did not record on time. That was my fault. I was on a family vacation and I decided to get the coronavirus, so... Oops.
I just got a normal cold.
Well, that's nice. Corey got
it's kind of shitty
too,
because it was like a normal cold, which sucked. Like normally it'd be totally like, okay, we get why you're at home, but it sounds like during COVID era, it's like, okay, dipshit, you have a normal cold, like you're not special. Like I feel like a dick for being upset that I have a normal cold.
Yeah.
So
saying you have a cold doesn't really hold any water in today's society. Like if you don't get the name brand.
Yeah. No, I got the fucking super cool or the super chill of illnesses.
Hey man,
it's not even the RC cola. It's not it's got the super chill. RC cola is you don't want it, but if you get it, you're kind of pleasantly surprised.
I am usually pleasantly surprised with RC cola when I drink it. Yeah.
You never go out of your way to get it, but
no.
If somebody. And so I think RC cola is that's the Omicron of illnesses, right? That's you're you don't want it, but if you get it, you're like, oh, thank God, I got RC. I didn't get the really shitty one.
And the irony is with that, I had Omicron and I'm vaccinated and boosted, whatever. So it felt like a cold, and the colds now are getting to be really ferocious. So it's almost I don't know, it's double edged, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I took 3 tests. I'm like, this is a bad cold. Nope, just a cold, just a shitty cold. So
Corey got something too that's he's been out, he's been in the hospital once in the last 3 days too from it, and it's still not corona.
Jesus.
I don't know.
Did he wash his water bottle out?
This is the fuzzy water bottle coming back, isn't it?
It might be a fuzzy water bottle again.
Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. Sorry, it's a little bit unorthodox this week. As long as nothing else implodes, we will be back to the regular studio and regular schedule starting this coming weekend. But yeah, we've got a full docket, episode 237 for you. Before we get into any of the topics or anything else, I want to briefly touch on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Carbitrage. On this customized site, you will find 2 open-ended levels of support for content consumers like you to support content producers like us. Website, once again, is patreon.com/Carbitrage. I have a Northeast that one of our patrons, Tucker, brought to me while I was in COVID hell, and it's delicious. What are you drinking?
I have my Spotted Cow, which I didn't have to come here to get. It was pretty amazing. I love it. Because, as you were saying off air, my friend Darren was in town over Christmas, New Year's-ish time.
Mm-hmm.
And, Christmas Day, his dad had to reschedule when they were gonna do their Christmas, so he ended up not being able to do anything for most of Christmas.
Oh, that's fun.
And so I'm like, oh dude, I'll be home in a little bit. And then Jana's family thing took forever, and so he ended up driving from Circle Pines to Hudson to Hopkins back to St. Paul.
Man, he went beyond Buffalo, Minneapolis suburbs.
Yeah, he had to go to Hudson to get beer. They had to drive all the way across town to go to the Christmas thing and then come home to go to bed. Oh, then the next day he had to go back to Circle Pines to go to his dad's thing. Because apparently his dad and his mom they're divorced, but they both live in Circle Pines still, which is weird because it's a town of 20 people.
Okay, that's actually kind of normal. I feel like the wealthier your family, the closer your divorced parents live to one another.
I don't think his family's terribly wealthy. Very good point, because didn't Kanye West move in literally across the street from Kim Kardashian?
I do not follow pop culture, but
that's actually a thing that happened.
Okay,
which is hilarious. Because now I imagine Pete Davidson or whatever her new guy is. He just walks around Kanye West's old house naked in front of all the windows, looking out the window.
Oh, just getting his man beanbag filth on everything.
Yeah, and Kanye West is just like upset and just having a freak out like across the street, like stomping on his yard, like
Just huffing
waving
and
his
puffing.
fists in the air.
Oh my god. Alright, I guess first topic is me this week. CES is currently going on, has been for about a week. That's out
Yes.
in Las Vegas, and normally that doesn't have much for car news, but now that everything is becoming electrified, that's starting to become kind of a place for manufacturers to drop news. So I want to talk about two different products from two different companies. First one being the new Silverado EV, which is the first ever production vehicle to come with 24-inch wheels standard. And I apologize for the keyboard noise. For whatever reason, the link I grabbed doesn't have any information about the actual story. So here's a different one.
Yeah, it was for a podcast. So that's a link.
Well, I mean, the Autoblog website is actually, I mean, it's a journalism source, but they also do a podcast. So yeah, I grabbed the wrong one. But anyway, this is very much, it feels like an Escalade EXT or an Avalanche because it's not body on frame, and it's got kind of that weird unibody bed to it. But they're gonna call it the Silverado.
It's a big dumb Ute. Like it's a big shitty, like Honda Ridgeline.
Basically. Oops.
I don't like it. This is really dumb.
Or, I mean, it's more EV stuff, but like this is Chevy, so I mean, it's just like Volkswagen. They're gonna find a way to ruin this product.
Doing more EV stuff isn't inherently good. Like you can still fuck up an EV really easy. Like.
And it's still a pickup truck.
Very easy to do.
The dumbest form factor of vehicle out there. So, I don't know. But I mean, you know this is going to come from Chevrolet. It's going to come from GMC. We're going to see a Dodge one at some point. Because with things like the Lightning and the Rivian R1T coming out, like, they need to answer. So, it's the price point that they're claiming for the absolute base models, $40,000. And the range and all that and motor configuration seems fine, but I mean, this is like everything else we've seen. It's like the Audi e-tron from a year and a half ago. Like, this is literally just saying, fine, here's my C assignment because I have to submit something to pass this class.
You know, this is like semi-related, but like a little different. GM also is no longer the number one auto manufacturer in the United States.
Didn't Toyota just overtake that?
Yep. As of last week, Toyota overtook them.
See, that's a better story than this.
Yeah, but I mean, like, this is kind of, like, part of that. Because, like, all right, so Toyota, like, they're not even attempting to make an EV. It's just, like, it is what it is. I think if there's any reason that Akio Toyoda ever gets removed from his position, that will be why.
Yeah, their decision and actually opposition to full electric vehicles irks me quite a lot because I love Toyota.
Yes. Well, I think that they're doing it for a good reason. It's like I kind of see what they're trying to do here because like everybody else in the world is making EVs. You have it's kind of like with fuel injection in the 80s. Everybody was all doing fuel injection in the 80s and everybody was doing it differently. But when Ford got into doing fuel injection in the mid-'80s, everybody had done all the homework for it. They just went with what is now the standardized fuel injection systems on most cars, like up until direct injection, where you had like the little 2-pin, the plug goes on the side, the fuel feeds from the top, a top feed fuel injector. Like a 1986 Ford Mustang fuel injector is like totally interchangeable with like a 2015 Honda fuel injector. They're the same. I think they even have like the low impedance injectors. Like
they're high impedance.
They have now.
That was one of the
high impedance.
86 was the first year that you really saw high impedance injectors because that style injector, like something that looks just like it, was around in 1981 with the BMW system, the Bosch Motronic. But they were low impedance. If you put one of those in a modern ECU, you're gonna fry it.
Yeah. So, So with like Ford, like in the late 80s, they went with the modernized high impedance injector. Everything was interchangeable. They never had to change anything with the fuel system. I think that's probably what Toyota's doing. And in the meantime, what they're doing is they're working on an infrastructure that's going to be used for hydrogen. Another thing that's really useful for hydrogen or something other than electric is that fuel system is not just useful for cars, because pretty much everything in the world's internal combustion engine. And it doesn't always make sense to go with EVs. Example, airplanes. Right now, batteries, try to make a EV airplane, most of your payload capacity is going to be batteries.
Yeah.
So Toyota trying to go with like hydrogen or something or whatever, they're
Synthetic
not
fuels there.
gasoline. Yeah, they could use that technology to market it towards air horns or something if it doesn't work out for cars. So I see where Toyota's going with it, and it's not ideal, but it kind of makes sense. I see where they're going with it. But that being said, Toyota sticking with what they know, doing something good, letting everybody else do the homework, is also very synonymous with just Toyota as a whole. Like
They're
Toyota's
very
never
slow to
been,
move, yeah. Which is why
yeah,
they're
but when
weathering
they
the
do
chip
it,
shortage so well.
yeah, and that's why they whenever they do make a move, they totally crush it. Like, and GM on the other hand, GM moves slow and breaks stuff. They aren't the fastest. They aren't the first to market. They aren't like a Tesla, but they're also not as competent as Toyota. So yeah, there's a very good reason why GM is no longer number one. Also, remember that the Tahoe and like most of their trucks, they moved to independent suspension a few years ago. Nobody wants that on a giant truck. Like these trucks like Tahoes and stuff, although they're never used for towing, people have this like weird Oedipus complex. So they're like, I need to be able to tow everything all the time. And then when they see, oh, my Tahoe is independent suspension, now I'll go buy like literally anything else.
Yeah, they're gonna go buy
So
a 2500 pickup or something. I don't like how the unibody, not the unibody, the IRS Chevy full size stuff looks at all. Like I thought the GMT
well, it's
FM2 or whatever prior to that actually looked okay. I don't care anything about the solid axle, and you know those sheep are buying based on the spec sheet, which isn't any worse.
yeah.
But
Well, actually, another thing with that the spec sheet is have you ever actually looked underneath the new Tahoes? They have
oh
like
god, yeah.
no
Oh, the
like
ground
all their
clearance is
ground clearance
terrible.
comes from the tires.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
their suspension is like way down low. So that's another part of the problem is like that's something that shows up on your spec sheet, and it's like it's just typical GM generally sucking. Chrysler's doing this, so I'm sure we're gonna have another bailout of American auto manufacturers in 15 years. It's kind of on schedule. So American auto manufacturers, they get a bailout. They're good for about good-ish for about 15 years. Then they suck for 10 years, get a bailout, and the whole cycle continues again.
I
That's what
don't
always happens.
I don't know if it's going to be 15 years, but yeah, the decisions are a little bit questionable, and how the buyer reacts is changing too. Because I mean, remember 10 years ago when Ford introduced the EcoBoost 3.5, like nobody's going to buy
Yeah.
a full size truck with a V6, and now it like everyone is specking
Yeah.
that engine. So I'm just not sure if like the unibody thing for towing, for your point, is going to make any difference to the prospective buyer, or
I think they will.
if this, I mean, this is going to be an IRS vehicle, so if that dumps ground clearance too, maybe that will be, an issue.
I
But
think the unibody's huge because Ridgeline's got a lot more clout after they went to a separate bed. And the thing is for like the 0.1% of people that actually use their trucks, being able to replace just the bed is very important because that's the part that gets all of the wear and tear. And right now, if you're putting all the wear and tear on a Silverado, you have to scrap the whole truck.
yeah,
'Cause-
drilling rivets and all that kind of stuff just to change the bed, not necessarily a good idea.
well, it's not just drilling rivets. Like, I mean, you're having to replace bodywork. You have to put in body filler. You have to. It's a big deal to replace that. Like, because I mean, you see those trucks where it's like they put in something really heavy and like bent the frame, like bent the bedside, or like the bedside like cracked or something because it was overloaded. Like, you can just replace a bed, and that's why you see like
But
every
again, nobody that
OBS has a different colored bed. Like,
that's back
because
when trucks got used though. Now everyone's just buying these to commute in, and yeah, everything is worse. I mean, the bed's smaller. To Scott's point in the chat, the payload's lower.
yeah,
To your point, repairing it's going to be a lot more expensive, but like these don't experience any wear and tear anymore. So I think they're moving that way because I know nobody gives a shit.
Well, no, that's the thing is it doesn't experience it, but it the 2% of the 0.2% of people that actually do use it, the other 99.98% of people that buy it look at the 0.2% that use it because this whole thing is a whole image thing. It's like a cowboy thing. Where if a cowboy is no longer a macho man, why are you being a cowboy?
Yeah, but
like
I mean,
that's kind of what this is like. Is you get this truck because you want to look like you're a big macho man, but you're not.
But macho cowboys are still perception people.
Exactly, but that's the thing is what I'm saying is like these buyers are the people that are trying to be the Marlboro man.
Sure.
Or something.
Well, I mean, look at the image on the stream. I mean, this thing is out in the middle of like Montana.
They're trying to be that
on a trail.
As soon as those actual people aren't doing that, they're not going to buy this. And yes, real men do get a Prius, but that's not what you like. That's the thing is like they buy it because they think that's what's cool. But like in 10 years, if it's no longer the Chevy Silverado, that's the cool thing. What else are they gonna buy? It's gonna not be this. So
I still think right now, absolutely, you are 100% correct. But I think in 4 or 5 years, it's gonna be a complete non-issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's different with Silverados. I think that you can pull the engine out, you can do whatever because you can't hear an engine in a photo. Like your memory doesn't like you don't have an image in your mind of an engine running. You think of it like as a car enthusiast, yes. But as like Joe Blow, like some guy that doesn't know the difference between a V10 and a V6, like, they're not going to know the difference.
Oh, they'll synthesize all that. Don't worry, and then they'll charge you every month for it too. If you want the V8 engine sound package, that's $20 a month.
I think the form factor is going to be the biggest issue for trucks. Because I mean, we saw that we've seen that with the Ridgeline. Nobody bought the Ridgeline. Well, everybody talks shit about the Ridgeline because the Ridgeline wasn't a conventional looking truck, and this is not a conventional looking truck. And I think that the Ford Lightning is going to just like eat this thing alive.
I think so too. The specs are much better, and it came to I shouldn't say came to market first. Neither one of these is for sale, but we saw it earlier. So
also the Rivian too. If we think of that as well, it's another truck with a separate bed. So actually, no, it doesn't have a separate bed.
No, that's a unibody like this.
It looks like it.
Yeah,
it looks like it.
You gain a lot more versatility. I mean, they get that pass-through pocket on the Rivian. This has some really cool, innovative stuff in the front. But yeah, the Lightning, I think, is a better way to ease people into it than these.
Yeah, this is going to be a dud. You know what this is going to be? It's going to be like that 2.7-liter four-cylinder they tried to put into these.
I remember talking about that engine on the podcast when they announced it. I'm like...
It was immediately just a terrible idea. I've never seen one running. I've only heard of them for being like, yeah, my buddy bought one and it blew up immediately. That's all I've heard. Like, that's been like
strange
the review.
How putting a super stressed out direct injection turbocharged engine that runs on regular fuel in the hands of idiots was a bad idea.
Yeah, why didn't Lamborghini ever make a V12 pickup? This is why. Like,
002 is pretty close.
Immediately. Like, that's why you would never get like a dual quad setup on a truck. Because the person that buys a truck can like barely fog a mirror. They're not going to know what to do with dual quad carburetors.
That's why the LS is so great. That thing just doesn't care.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying is like for time in memoriam, trucks have always had just the simplest powertrain because the owners are morons. So, all right, let's talk about smart people and things that they buy.
All right. Nope, I still got there's 2 parts to this. We're still talking
we do?
CES.
Oh my God, there's more. What else do we have to talk about this horrible vehicle?
The only other one I wanted to talk about, and this was a CES announcement, even though the company really has nothing to do with CES. There's a startup in New York that deals with battery technology, and they've got, I'm sure it's one of many, but they've got a second gen, I'll call it, Model S. So the first facelift, but not the current car. They took out the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack that it comes with, the long range, and they put their own cells and battery controller into it, bringing the battery capacity from 103 kilowatt hours to 212. I want to say, I think that's what it was.
More than Neo.
And then they road tested it, and it got, I think, 752 miles with the standard Model S efficiency. But the questions I kept seeing cropping up that weren't answered, or how much does it weigh? And then the other one that's huge is, will the battery cells actually last, or will they deteriorate like crazy? Because, I mean, the original like 60, 70, and 85 kilowatt hour Teslas are very longevitous because those batteries can't dump or receive current that quickly, and they're not that energy dense. So companies are constantly making headway with all this kind of stuff, but I really am curious to see if something with that kind of energy density can, I don't know, if that can actually stay viable for the long term. So I'm really excited to see breakthroughs in battery technology. And then Mercedes unveiled the EQXX, which was kind of a cool lightweight streamliner vehicle too, where they
that sounds like a weird porno version of
EQXX. That's the EQ Triple X. They discontinued that one already. But Mercedes was
you can only get that one in Amsterdam.
An air-cooled 100 kilowatt hour pack that was the size of a first-gen Nissan Leaf pack, and they essentially,
that's cool.
It's really cool, and the fact they were able to do that by putting tiny motors in them, so the batteries cannot get that hot. Even if you're working at 100% duty, there's still enough thermal capacity there on the bottom just for air cooling on the bottom of the vehicle. So I'm honestly more impressed by the Mercedes concept, which arguably got a lot of airtime versus this little startup here. But energy density, I think, is something I'm going to look into a lot more than sheer battery capacity for the next several years, as my car starts to age.
I think it's very important about energy density versus just adding batteries. We're kind of moving away from, like, very quickly, which I love. We're moving away from the era of like the equivalent of an aero car, where you just put an airplane engine in a car to make it faster, to make it just a better engine. So it'd be cool to see a company that pull like a Duesenberg, like Lycoming inline 8, like with this.
Where's my bell?
I know, right? You don't have one. Haha, here I am.
God damn it.
But no, I mean, I see a lot of parallels between the two, and I think it's really important that I'm very excited to see that we're moving past the just get more and to get better.
Right.
Because the getting better is where things get cool.
Yeah.
And trust me, I love get more, but get better is like that's what you really want.
We need both, but yeah, it's more interesting to see the tech take over than brute force.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's why I'm more interested in heat pumps than I am in large capacity batteries.
Exactly. That's very, very important, because heat pumps need to be in every car.
They do.
Not.
I do have a story about those a little bit later, and how Tesla is screwing them up. But yeah, we'll get there.
Well, let's move on to this next thing, where we're going to do another car buying challenge, actually.
I'm into that.
The car buying challenge, this is a real-life one from Jana, who is currently out shopping with her sister. That's why she's not on. So I'm sorry, everyone. She has been, as you know, out of a job for several months, and nannying is becoming more of a thing for her. And now she's at a position where she wants to have something that's not her Sienna to nanny with, because like the Sienna's kind of like big and kind of ridiculous for carrying literally one kid. So what we're looking for is a nanny car for Jana, but this is the thing, nannying you can't finance with, because it's such a variable income. Mm-hmm. It's like trying to finance with tips. You just can't do that. So what we're looking for is a car that's under $3,000.
Okay.
It has to be post 1997, so it has modern
crash safety
latch car seat anchors. 2002 is when they were mandated to be in all cars. 97 is when the standardization started.
Okay.
So 2002 is what we would prefer, but you can go back to 1997. She's totally okay with that. She personally is okay with 1995 and newer. I'm not, because I don't want to deal.
I was going to say, somebody else's kid, 97 crash standards. I know a lot of manufacturers implemented those fully before 1997.
Yeah, it's not just that. I don't want to deal with being woke up at like 7 o'clock in the morning to put a car seat in her car with a seatbelt, which is a much larger pain in the ass than just popping on 3 latch like clips. That's so much easier. So that's what I'm saying. 97 to 2002, like somewhere in that era, or newer.
And auto.
And Yeah, automatic, I would just say, just to make it easier for her. She can do a manual, but like Jan already has enough anxiety with a kid in the car that she doesn't want to deal with like knocking the car out of drive, which sounds like a really dumb thing, but I've watched her actually do that before.
Don't
Where
those
she
things
was
have locks?
no, she was she was driving my van once, and she had to grab something out of the back, and she accidentally bumped the shifter out of second gear and put it in a
Oh,
new.
okay. You said bump it out of drive. My brain was in the wrong
Yeah, yeah,
place.
yeah. No,
Out of
she
gear.
literally like bumped it out of. So she has like this like anxiety of like having to deal with a kid in the back, and then bump the car out of gear. So it's a totally weird anxiety thing, but that's just her.
That's valid.
Um. So yeah, and so the also Scott said high mile fit not happening.
Too
Hondas are
expensive.
out. We started the new year with 0 Accords in our lives, and we're all done with that. And so not happening again.
They're also worth too much right now for anyone you would ever want to get into.
Yeah, and they plus having to resell them. I don't want to deal with reselling it because this car is going to eventually be resold.
Sure.
Because as soon as Jana is able to get a car that's like any better at all, that's what she's going to get. Her goal, like her end goal, is a pistachio Fiat 500 convertible.
What a good vehicle.
Yeah, and it has latch anchors. And that's what she wants. So that's perfect. So my first one, if you want to click on my top link, Eric,
Yep.
is still loading up for me.
Sorry, the links don't have the details. Is that the Echo or the Vitara?
No, you have to click on them. It's
Well,
I was
opened
looking
them, but they're not labeled. So which one do you want to look at first?
the one that's at the top, the first of the two links that I put on.
I opened them both. They're not labeled. Which car do you want to look at first?
Oh, you opened them both. Okay, I'm sorry. The 2000 Suzuki Vitara.
Boom.
I think that's a solid choice. It looks like hell. The price is bananas.
Is this the 2.8 V6 though?
Maybe it doesn't say.
Oh, it is the V6. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh yeah, it is a V6, but it says $2,800. I think if I could talk the guy down to like 2, it'd be okay because this is still 4-wheel drive. It's still in Seattle, which is huge for the price, because I could bring this back to Minnesota and sell it for much more if I get a new bumper and a new mirror on it.
Yeah, and it's clean because it's from the PNW.
Yeah, and so I also think that another kind of important thing is that, yeah, it's a 2.8 V6. It's not the most desirable one. It's got the leather seats, though. And if anybody's ever tried to clean up, like, kid disgustingness, leather seats make it so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that's an upgrade. Like, nobody actually likes sitting on leather seats.
Right, it's all for kids, yeah.
Yeah, it's for kids. It's more durable than vinyl, and it cleans up easier. Like, that's why you get leather seats. So I think this one would be solid. I would prefer a 4-cylinder, but I couldn't in a short period of time find a 4-cylinder for sale.
Yeah,
that would be the
reliability
play.
and mainly fuel economy for Jana, because I know how little she makes. I know where you're coming from on this one, but I think I got something.
And also, the main kid she's nannying for is like 2 miles away, so it doesn't need to go that far. This just has to drive the kid from the kid's house to their school.
Sure,
that's it, and like maybe to like Roseville. Like it's not that far. So the fuel economy is a little bit worse than her van, but the fact that it's like physically smaller, I think would actually outweigh that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's your first pick?
My first pick, I'll start with the one I like less. I found, and I'm looking locally because I know you said you want something from the Pacific Northwest, but I know also how inconvenient it is to take any trip and the cost of even fuel at relatively cheap prices to get anything. Yes. So I found an 04, and it's a Honda, so don't hate me, but it's a Civic sedan with leather seats. It's got.
So I was thinking of these because this is the one generation of Civic that isn't plagued by theft. There's nothing that anybody. The only thing worth stealing off of these cars are the alloy wheels, as this one has, and for like if you really, really, really want to get into it,
Mm-hmm.
the valve cover and the crankshaft are the only things desirable off these cars because it's got a coil unplugged valve cover for a D series engine,
yep.
and it's got a 1.7 liter crankshaft for a D series.
But like
those are the only things we're stealing off of this.
This thing's
so this is a great car for
the leather. 4 doors because you do not want a 2-door with kids. It's freshly serviced. Actually, doesn't have a lot of Honda cancer. This thing's pretty clean.
Yeah, this is really nice.
And it's
this is like, I'm actually gonna send this over to my friend Bo because he was looking for a Honda for his friend's kid.
So this definitely isn't a Minnesota car with how clean it is, but like that's a pretty rare trim level. It's an 04, so it's got everything she needs.
Yeah, no, this is really nice.
It's solid.
This is like almost way too nice, and like they recently did the timing belt, which is huge.
Yep.
And
the AC works.
That's like the only thing that can kill this engine is the timing belt. So this is a great pick, and a new transmission service.
This thing it's a solid pickup. It's only posted 3 days ago, and it's on Craigslist. That's why Marketplace stuff sells way too quick. Craigslist is a ghost
also
town.
Craigslist is like just Boomer Town now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where you go to like get like actually really good deals these days.
Both my picks are on Craigslist. Both yours are on Marketplace. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, your second pick.
So actually, one thing about this car,
sure.
Actually, Janas, she likes having a 2-door for kids, and the reason is she has like really bad anxiety, and so she gets anxious about forgetting to put on the child locks on the doors. So having a coupe for her actually is not a detriment by any means. She actually, her like end goal here is like a Camry coupe if like she could not get a.
I'm sorry, Jana. That is a fucking horrible idea. She would get sick of that real quick.
She's done coupe and sedan and van. Like she's done this before, and like when she had that Accord, she actually liked having the 2 doors because she was. It was just like for her, she didn't have to sit there and worry because like it's literally one of those things where she'll actually get like an anxiety attack and have to like pull over and stop and double check that the doors are locked. So that's a real thing. My second choice here is actually one of the cars she initially wanted. This is like probably the worst of the picks. A 2000 Toyota Echo. Because I want to talk about these cars are stupid expensive for no reason.
Yeah, look at this. 233,000 miles.
Yeah, it's a sedan too, which is like way worse than the coupe. Because the coupe on this car is actually like way cooler looking. But yeah, no, it's a not hybrid first gen Prius.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like stupid expensive. And it's not just this one. Like if you just look up Toyota Echo prices, Toyota Echoes are cheaper, they're more expensive than like pretty much anything else made by Toyota between like 2000 and like 2004. Like they're way more expensive.
I mean, the simplicity and the economy go a long way, but like it's very counterintuitive.
I think it's because people know that they're good, and like they aren't terribly fuel efficient. Like it's like 32 combined MPG. Yeah, it's not great. I mean, it's just kind of like. I mean, they're great cars, but like not for fuel economy. But yeah, so Jan really wanted to Echo that. Like at this point, getting an Echo is like a luxury.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, I'm sure it's a decent car, but I mean, it's still 22 years old. That might not even have the car seat anchors. I don't know.
It does, actually. That's why it's there. Because this is one of the first cars that Toyota released with latch anchors.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it's such a weird thing that they're just so expensive. No idea. This guy also has the worst possible photos I've ever seen.
Yeah, these are pretty bad.
Like these are horrible. Yeah, 233,000 miles, and it's still like as expensive. Like, just think of like we could do a $2,400 car challenge, and you can get cars that get better fuel economy, are more reliable, are cooler, are smaller than this. It's so weird that these pull so much money.
Typically, like but 2021, man, it's not good. Not a good time to buy a good car.
Oh no, it's terrible. That's kind of why we're looking at. That's why I was looking at like the Pacific Northwest because like my dollar will go a little bit further there usually. And like if I get something there, it'll have less rust, which will make it easier for me to sell later on.
I
So
will say I was cognizant of that when I picked my picks, but the stuff I got clearly are not Minnesota cars that just happen to be in Minnesota.
yeah,
So
they happen to be here.
that
So what
brings
was
me
your?
to my second pick, which is the car I firmly believe Janas should get, which is a 2003 Toyota Matrix XR. Pretty much
And
rust
that's
free.
actually what I agree with. I totally agree.
2,500 bucks, less than 200,000 miles. I don't see rust on it. Looks very clean. No leather, which sucks, but it's, this thing will be fine. It's a solid car. It'll fit a GPR, great at handling kids, reasonably good fuel
My only
economy.
gripe with this is onesies. Their only Achilles heel is that oil pump.
They'll be fine.
And that oil pump. Yeah, but I mean, like that's the thing is like that's my only gripe. It's the oil pump. I think doesn't that oil pump happen around 200?
It really varies, but I mean the automatics are. I've never heard of one screwing off.
If it's not a problem, yeah, this would be the play. But yeah, no, these are great cars. They're so fun. They're great. Jana actually personally wants a Matrix quite badly.
Before I even introduced this as my option, she said her dream car would have been like a red one of these.
That's like ideally what she's looking for this like scenario. Like again, she really wants 500 in pistachio convertible, but like
500s are way too much right now. I mean, last year you could pick up a 500 expensive for this, but not anymore.
Yeah, no, this is what you get for now, and then once the virus is done and the economy is back to semi-normal, and 500s are depreciating in value again, then you can go get yourself a pistachio. But
this will still be worth. In fact, I think any of these picks you're not going to lose money on, even if you use it for a year or two. So I don't think you'll be.
I think these are all solid picks. There is proof in the world that you can still get a cheap, good car.
Which is kind of
and
amazing.
It doesn't need to be ancient, which I previously thought. I thought you're going to get an off-brand weird Camry that like has one airbag.
Yeah, all these are relatively modern. They're going to have electronic fuel injection. They're going to have airbags. They're going to have modern crash safety. That's fine. And you see stuff like that, you're like, why the hell are we driving expensive cars around when you could just go get something like that and live with it?
Yeah, no, and like honestly, it's not like you have to live with it. The only thing you're living with right now is the automatic transmission that like I just kind of threw in as a prerequisite. Because otherwise, what we would do is we just get like 4 manual cars that are fantastic, and
it would just be a manual 500 for me. I'd go find the cheapest one, salvage title, and just buy it.
Yeah. Well, also then you also run into the issue of great, now you don't want to get rid of it. It's just like
I know.
It's a lot easier to get an automatic out of your life than it is a manual.
Yeah, they're not as endearing. They don't tug on my heartstrings. So
yeah, so I getting an automatic. That's the problem. Is automatics still kind of do that to me. But like these are all cars where I'm like, yep, I'm okay getting out of this because I can go get myself a manual 4-cylinder of any of these and be better. So, but all right, well let's tell Jana that the Matrix is her play and that we found it.
I mean, it's in St. Paul. It's got to be no more than 5 miles from you guys, so.
It can't possibly be far away.
All right, moving right along. I think last time we recorded, we talked about those spy shots of the Volkswagen Transporter EV / Buzz that was running around in Germany. They finally, Volkswagen, they have given us a production start date for the ID.7, the Buzz. And it's not 2 years from now, like we would normally expect with all the pushbacks they've had. They've been showing us this thing for over 3 years in like pretty close to final trim. I'm just like, what the hell? Even with the world situation, I don't fully understand. But anyway, it's going to start production in late March of this year, which is really soon. We still don't have any for sure, even like pre-production body. Everything has been a rendering or a concept vehicle that's a one-off, so I'm still really on the fence with whether or not it's going to look like a standard transporter with some like flower power paint scheme, or if it's actually going to look retro chic. I
found some spy shots of it.
Yeah, we've looked at those, but I'm still not positive that it's going to look concept-y enough to really have that chic factor.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Is like the concept was so rad, but like this is why like like I've always been skeptical of Volkswagen is every time Volkswagen does a concept, they do a great concept, and very rarely does it come to fruition as like it's told. So like for instance, the big one that everybody thinks of when they think of like concept Volkswagen that came to fruition, everybody goes, "Oh, the new Beetle." Yeah, that did come almost identical to the concept, except for one big issue. Is the original Beetle concept was based off of the Polo, and then they redesigned it off the Golf, and now you can wear a top hat inside of it, and it's way too big, and nobody likes anything on it. And the dashboard, you can like run track on top of the dashboard.
Hey man, you got a flower holder. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but I mean, like the thing is, they redesigned the car to be like 20% bigger, and it showed. And it wasn't for the better. So that's why I'm always a little leery of Volkswagen concepts. Also, Volkswagen, once they put something in production, they're impeccable at finding ways to fuck it up almost off the bat.
I'm curious to see how many times once Scott actually gets his that it will be out of his hands in service in the first year. Like we should almost start a pool on that.
It's a race between them and Kia for like making Scott not have his car.
Are they gonna put like metal matrix lining inside the engine or the motor windings?
Yeah, no, you have no idea. Like it's gonna be bad. I
really hope it looks alright because I mean the concept I love.
It's all you get with the Volkswagen is the aesthetics. So I really hope for Scott's sake that it looks better than some of these concepts that I've seen, which are really like some of the concepts I've seen like looks more like a Renault Espace than it looks like this.
I love the Espace, but yeah, it's not nearly as special as what we've been shown for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and I like the Espace too, but like you don't, I like Culvers, but if somebody's telling me we're gonna get a Juicy Lucy, and they bring me a Culver's, and I'm like, I guess it's still a hamburger. Okay, like it's not the same. It's two different things.
That's a weird metaphor.
But anyway, it's accurate.
It's not wrong. It's just a weird metaphor.
I mean, a Renault Espace is not nearly as good as a Juicy Lucy. Like,
did you just compare a minivan from France to a burger stuffed with cheese?
It's the best way to describe like the difference, because like the Espace is like it's good, but it's also like it's not anything you aspire towards.
But the Avantime.
Like, yeah, no, the Avantime's great.
That's based on the Espace, way better.
But I mean, like, the Espace is like, it's like you have to get fast food for lunch, but you get the best possible fast food. You get the most delicious, the best looking, the most flavorful, the smelliest, the best one, the one you want.
The smelliest.
That's the Culver's Butterburger. But what they've been showing us, that's not your fast food. That's a Juicy Lucy from Matt's. That's a hamburger, and then you get the Juicy Lucy from Matt's, and then they drive past Matt's and go to Culver's, and then you're just upset. And that's the thing. I'm afraid Scott's gonna get. He's still gonna get a wonderful, Culver's Butterburger, but it's not a Juicy Lucy.
He's gonna get an $18 Butterburger.
Yeah, he's gonna be mad. So I just don't want that to happen. So,
we'll see. Hope for the best.
Apparently, they are unboxing rear for what? They're unboxing.
They're boxing the rear.
Oh, they're boxing the rear for the cargo version. Okay, that'd be kind of cool. I like the idea of them having two different kind of body styles between the cargo and the standard one. That'd be really cool.
I think they will. I'm not sure if we're going to get the cargo version here, but in Europe, obviously, that's going to be probably way better selling.
Yeah, no, the cargo version would be what they need. I think we need a cargo version because that'd be for last mile delivery services. An EV minivan is exactly what we want.
It's going to be like a good HHR panel.
Yeah, yes, except not an HHR panel.
I know. Yes, it's a terrible vehicle. I had to bring it up though.
So, speaking of terrible, horrible, no good, very bad vehicles, I want to talk about cars with snow tires.
I'm 100% on board with that.
Yeah, snow tires are great, right? Well, in the East Coast, a bunch of people didn't have that because there was a backup on I-95 in like Pennsylvania and like other
this.
states that went on for like more than a day.
Oof.
Yeah,
I didn't click on
this
it.
is what happens. If you had snow tires, it wouldn't be a problem. Like you just have your snow tires, and then you drive like it's summer. It wouldn't be a problem.
Those all-season summer tire people killed other people.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like honestly, I think if you are in a car accident and the person that hit you has all seasons or summer tires, that should totally be a cause for higher levels of liability.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, you go to Finland. I mean, there's a mandate for winter tires. If you are found to be at fault in a collision and your tires are to blame, like you are prosecuted like hard. Like you won't drive anymore.
Why don't we do that?
Because we don't have a mandate for winter tires. I mean, Canada could potentially do this. I think there's 1 or 2 provinces that have that mandate, but I mean, we are so far away from being able to even mandate winter tires here, which is just annoying.
There's another thing that I've often thought about writing to like my congressman about is Minnesota. We've been having like budget surpluses like every year since we were in high school.
Sure.
Why don't we have a tax rebate for winter tires?
It would certainly save a lot of people a lot of money.
And like if you have a tax rebate for winter tires and we have a big dumb budget surplus, like that should be something that both sides of the aisle can get behind, because budget hawks are cool. Okay, cool. We're giving, or not budget hawks, like Republican people will say, like they're like, cool, you're giving this tax money back to people, and then you have like your namby-pamby like safety people that are like, all right, cool, now everybody's safer on the road, everybody's happy. Yep. Like, yeah, no, everybody should just have. It's not like snow tires aren't available for most cars. Like, no, they're readily available. Like,
the only caveat I could say is like if you are an on-street parking person only, like a city dweller, it isn't really feasible to do 2 sets of winter, winter and a summer set. I mean, the storage costs, you can have Discount Tire store them for you, but it's pricey. So, I mean, subsidizing that too would have to happen. And at that point, that turns into a lot of taxpayer money.
A lot of those people also store their bicycle inside their apartment.
True. But I mean,
so you just put your snow tires in your closet in bags. Done. Like,
I am on board. I think everyone should have winter tires no matter what their situation is, but I mean, you still have to look at it from all sides.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm doing. Is like you also have to consider you live in Minnesota. Like, you already have to deal with having jackets and snow pants and boots that you don't wear half of the year.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, adding 4 tires and wheels onto that isn't that hard. And yeah, if you really don't want it in your house, pay somebody else to hold it for you.
I think there's like 3 or 4 all seasons on the market, which are like Alpine rated all seasons, which are, in my opinion, good enough. I mean, obviously they're substantially worse for hot weather performance, but they don't wear out as quick as you're driving a winter tire through the summer. I think something like that would be allowable, but I mean, tread depths too. And Scott wrote in the comments here on the Twitch chat, New Zealand also, he believes, has this. If your vehicle or you are involved in any collision, even if it would otherwise have been your fault, if your tires are good and theirs aren't, the other person's at fault automatically.
Perfect. It should be that way.
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah. That's just part of like normal like traffic safety.
Yeah, and I think it should fall on that instead of bringing back things like vehicle safety inspections, because that's a whole different can of worms. But if you are involved in a collision, a vehicle incident, that should be the first thing the officer does, is take note of your tread type and depth.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that you're absolutely correct. And I think that when your insurance looks at the car, or the other person's insurance looks at the car, the insurance claims adjuster looks at the car, they should also note the tread depth. And then you have 2 different people that are looking at it that are not like actually engaged with the accident. So I think that would actually be really solid. Like, yeah, I really think there should be like mandated snow tires. Because I've also been watching like my intersection here in front of my house. I just see people just like slide through the intersection,
Mm-hmm.
like full tilt, because they go like 45 miles an hour down my street, and then they go full tilt. Like by the time they're stopped at the intersection, stopped quote unquote, they're going like still 20 sliding. And it's just like a lot of people like, in my neighborhood Facebook group. They're like, yeah, people don't stop at stoplights and stop signs, and then like there's somebody saying, well, they might have bad tires. It's like it's not an excuse.
It's not a crutch. No, yeah.
No,
like, might not be able to get going again.
Like shitty tires for half the year means you don't get to follow the rules. Why would I ever have tires if I don't have to follow the rules? Then like that's just ridiculous.
It irks me to no end.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, snow tires, get them, or you should be criminally prosecuted.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
You know what? One other thing.
What?
If you have all season tires and you end up in a ditch in the winter, you should totally AAA should not pay for your tow. You should have to pay for that.
Well, that's something you subsidize on your own, so that's a little bit harder to. I don't know.
But I mean, I think AAA should have that in their rules. It's like if you slide off if you live in a northern state where it snows, mm-hmm. and the snow causes you to slide off the road, and you're at fault. That should be the same as I was drifting my car and I crashed it.
You could still have AAA tow you if you do that. If you're drifting around a parking lot and you smash into a light pole, you can still use AAA for that. It's based on your license or your tabs, your tax.
I don't like it.
Anyway, I want to talk about how Tesla is screwing up the EV market once again. We talked earlier about heat pumps need to be in every EV, and big ups to Tesla for making that standard in 2021 for their model range. However, I have been a lurking member of a couple of Tesla groups since I bought my car just to keep track of things.
Discord crashed for me for a second.
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah? You should get back into video, because right now I've just got
I know, I'm trying to do that.
A group of...
Oh, there we go.
Hey, I had to restart my webcam a minute ago, too. So, anyway, heat pumps standard in their model range since 2021, which is awesome. I mean, I cannot credit them enough for that. That's a big thing they did kind of silently, too. I mean, we talked about it, but that's not in their public spec sheet, which is just strange. Because that, for me, was a huge selling point. I mean, that's the one thing I want in a modern... if I were to upgrade my car at some point, which I'm sure I will. I will not buy one without a heat pump.
Yeah.
I've been talking to Scott this week. I mean, he's got the ID4. Much like my car, it's a resistive heat vehicle. It just is what it is. But that thing just grenades battery power. We cannot figure out why, but his efficiency is 20% worse than mine. Yeah, the ID4. Which is a single motor,
go figure.
High efficiency. Yeah, I don't understand exactly. We're gonna swap cars for a weekday or two just to see if it's his commute somehow doing it, but neither here nor there. I have been looking in the local Tesla group, and people, a lot of them in 2021 or newer Model 3s and Ys on the coldest days, so we're talking 15 or 20 below 0 Fahrenheit, the heat pump fails, and they don't get any heat. And I'm talking resistive fails, too. Yeah, the car will take the resistive heater offline if there's a fault in the heat pump. Which is just okay, that's when you need heat the most. So, that's a really dangerous proposition. Turns out it's some faulty pressure sensors on the air conditioning line set. But I think they need to update the software a little bit on that to just default to the resistive heater if there's a heat pump issue.
Tesla, really, they're just like the Model T. The only reason that they're in existence is because they were the first to market with a viable product. Yep. Tesla will go the way of the Commodore 64.
I kind of hope so.
I think that's what's going to happen. Is the Commodore 64 was the gaming computer in the 80s, but they didn't update shit, and they were still selling them in the 90s with just stuff added on.
Well, look at that. Apple too. I mean, they were still selling the Apple II until the late 90s.
Yeah, exactly. But Apple made other things. Commodore just didn't.
I'm sure other things, but nothing good. So I mean, if you rest on your laurels and you don't innovate, yeah, just because you were the first to market with a great product and you're still selling it, doesn't mean it's a great product anymore.
Well, it's not like that. I think the other issue is that you can have something that is a better product, but if it's not any more reliable, I mean, that's part of the product. Like, it's a very big part of it. So, yeah, well, jokes on Tesla. So,
unrelated news. We're talking about software, so I guess it is related. They updated their main UI for the center computer. This is the third time they've done that in 10 years. So this is a pretty big change.
okay.
When I bought my car, it was like right after the first UI refresh, and I had never experienced the first one, but for the most part, pretty well laid out. I really can't fault the infotainment system when it doesn't brick the car and turn off my turn signals. The reason I have not updated to this third release, which is called version 11, they removed the heated seat buttons from the screen. Let me say that again. They removed the heated seat buttons from the screen. They're now nested in a menu somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, the thing that every EV user uses all the time, yeah, that's not on the screen anymore. Let that sink in.
Okay.
Uh-huh. So my car prompts me every morning when I'm in my app, preheating it, and every time I get in the car to update.
Would you like to remove your heated seat button?
Yeah, and I'm like, nah, I'm good, thank you.
I prefer my heated seat button.
I use it all the time, yeah.
I'm so happy you don't own a Tesla. I don't want one. I never wanted one, and I hella don't want one. That's awful.
I hope they backpedal that decision.
Well, I'm gonna absolutely 180 the hell out of this conversation. We're gonna talk about a different car without heated seats, which is cool, and I want it, and I can't afford it.
Your segues are just better than mine. That's a thing.
I'm much better with segues than you. Have you ever heard of the Hirohatat Mercury?
Not until right now.
All right. So you're familiar with what a lead sled is, right?
I sure am.
So this guy named Bob Hirohata, he was a Nisei Japanese American person.
Okay.
Made the quintessential lead sled. Like,
look at the size of the battery under the hood.
Yeah, it was made in the 50s, dude. Like, this car's an unchanged. Like, all they've been doing since the 50s when this car was built was maintain it, because everything is perfect. Like, you don't change the Hirohata Mercury. Like, you don't change the battery or nothing. Like, you just get another battery of the same size. Wow. God, this car is just so cool. So it was on the cover of Hop Up magazine in 1953, Hot Rod magazine in 1953. It won the 1952 Peterson Motorama. It was on Rod and Custom in 1953. It was in the movie Running Wild in 1955. And then it was sold.
This actual car?
Yeah, this individual car.
Huh.
That's why the estimate at Mecum is $1 to $1.25 million. I
do see that.
Yeah, like that's what they're estimating for it. The car is like a greatest hits of everybody in the hot rod world. Pinstriping was done by Von Dutch of like Von Dutch fame, like the clothing company. Like he was originally a hot rod pinstriper. Carson Top Shop did the custom upholstery in it. The trunk was upholstered by Gaylord's Custom Shop.
Those are all done in the period?
Yeah, all done in the period. All of this stuff is in period.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, really, really rad. The car's been at the Peterson for a while. It's no longer there, but it's not like the National Historic Vehicle Register.
Wow.
In the National Mall in Washington D.C. It was first class in Pebbles Beach in 2015.
Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach. Sorry, I'm just trying to like.
Are there multiple Pebbles Beach?
Yes, there's many pebbles on the beach. I'm trying to correctly convey like how amazing this car is to people. Like George Barris did some of the mild customization work. It's really wild. Like everybody that was anybody in the hot rod world worked on this car at some point. It's got a 1953 Cadillac 331 cubic inch V8 with triple Stromberg carburetors. Chop top. It's got a V'd windshield. If you look at the windshield, it like ease down.
Looks like it's plate glass.
Yeah, it's has French 1952 Ford headlights, 1952 Lincoln Capri taillights. The front fenders were extended 4 inches. Like, it's the ultimate lead sled. Like, I cannot like say like anything beyond that. It's seafoam green, organic green. If you're not watching on video, so like if you've ever seen like, think of lead sled. Now think of the one that you've seen that's green two tone. That's the Hirohatat Mercury. It's the ultimate lead sled. So it's very, very cool. This is coming up for sale, and it's coming up for sale. Where you're going to save yourself a whole bunch of money by taking it to Mecum and then selling it somewhere better for much more money later on. So I'm not going to say where that better place would be to sell it for more money, but let's just say Mecum is where you go to lose money, especially this time of year. So, but it's a very, very cool car. I really, really, really wish I had the money to buy this. But yeah, like even if you're not into hot rods, like you get how cool this is.
Oh, it's very significant, more than it's cool even. But
yeah, no, this is to hot rod custom culture. Like this is the like Empire State Building of hot rods and customs.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single part of this car is just flawlessly done. I'm not sure if you saw the pinstriping on the glove box.
I did,
but
yeah, that scrolled through a couple times.
The coolest mid-century pinstriping on the glove box. Like, it's just such a great car. Like, even, like, the angle of the spare tire they made sure was, like, just right and everything when they put it in.
2-gallon metal fuel container and the 1-gallon engine oil container in the trunk.
Like, saw that, yeah.
Super cool.
Gotta make sure you don't run out.
I mean, imagine when this car was built in 53. I mean, that was a serious concern. That's years before the federal highway, the Interstate Act went in. So, I mean, this thing was... You're a long way from everything all the time.
Also, did you take a look at the switchgear on this? All the custom switchgear?
I love, that looks like custom Bakelite or something, but it's really cool.
I think so, yeah. It's like custom plastic. It's like, it's green and white plastic. Yeah. It's really rad.
Looks like it's held up so well. Maybe, I'm sure a lot of that was replaced in the 1996 restoration, but...
Yeah, I mean, well, when they did the 96 restoration, they kept... Most of the guys that worked on this were still alive, too.
Okay.
So they kept this as true to form as possible, which is very important for the car. Because 1996 is, like, a really bad time for hot rodding.
And oddly, the style of this hot rod reminds me most of people that became famous for hot rodding in the 90s.
Yeah, because they were trying to replicate this.
Yep.
And they did so poorly. And luckily, this one they did not. In that 96 restoration, I mean, the fact that this was displayed on Pebble Beach, singular Pebble.
I was going to say, I feel like you almost said Pebbles Beach again.
The fact that this is actually restored, that kind of goes to show how well they did their restoration to make sure they made this perfect again. So it's just such a rad car. Like, it's everything I'd ever want out of a custom. And whenever somebody thinks of a cool lead sled, like, it's so easy to screw up making a lead sled. And they did this just so right. So I'm just really happy about that. So I just wanted to tell everybody about how cool this is, bring something in from another part of the world that most of our listeners have, like, no exposure to. So
it just looks so modern, and obviously it's quintessentially 50s, but like,
yeah, again, you would think like
this was built in the like 90s, but no.
Yeah, no, you would totally think that this was a thing that came out like somebody's like, yeah, I just built a 1950s style modern vehicle. It's like, no, this was actually made in the 50s.
Yeah.
When they say lead sled, this car doesn't have body filler.
Oh yeah, no, it's melted lead. Yeah,
it's all melted lead. So I'm just really happy to see that this car is going to go to a new caretaker, and emphasis on the term caretaker, because I think, like, past the point of gasoline engines in cars and stuff like that.
Well, new cars anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, like, once, like, let's say 500 years in the future, humanity's a space-faring culture. Cars aren't as cool as they used to be. There's a thing. Now you have your spaceship. That's cool. I feel like cars like this are going to still be kept and maintained in museums, similar to how you would see like a very cool suit of armor, or how you would see like a gold damascene dueling pistol, or like even Renaissance artwork. I think that this is a piece
I would
of
equate it to architecture too, because I mean, there's a lot of
yeah,
functional aspects in architecture. I'm like, that stuff gets maintained and regularly
yes.
exercised.
No,
So
this is absolutely a massive piece of American mid-century culture. Um, and even if like nobody knows what this car is by modern standards, everybody's seen this at some point. Like you like in your mind, like if you've ever seen anything talking about 1950s custom cars, you've seen like this in like the Beatnik Bandit. Like those are the cars you've seen, like the Munster Mobile or something. Like this is just one of those cars that's like, yeah, in the 1950s and in the mid 20th century, Americans customized their cars heavily.
mm-hmm.
Example. And then you move on and say, also, like, all the women were on Valium, like, or whatever you're talking about, whatever rest happened
Yeah,
in the
Mommy's
40s.
Little Helper, whatever they called it.
Yeah, Mommy's
Yeah.
Little Helper, and then you talk about like all the other things that happened. Like, this is just such a significant piece of American culture. It's like this. I'm really the thing that makes me most happy about this car is that it's like in the National Historic Vehicle Register and displayed on the National Mall in Washington. Like that's huge. So, yeah, no, very cool car. Huge piece of American history. Huge piece of car history. Huge piece of lead.
Yeah, you're gonna want to wash your hands after. After
If you
touching
have
this thing.
if you have $1 million burning a hole in your pocket
That seems like
in
a pretty good deal.
2022,
Yeah.
yeah, this is what you spend it on. This is where you put your millions of dollars. And this year, you don't buy your NFT, buy this. So, I think that's my top tip for the end of the episode.
Okay. I got nothing, so that's good enough.
All right. Well, cool. Well, we will see you next week.
Next week.
I think we're going to record in person.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I think so. I mean, things could always change, but I'm done with my
I
COVID
would.
bout, and as long as Jana's scare or whatever is going on, it gets better, we
Yeah,
should be fine.
we're fine, but we had already scheduled everything, so
Yeah, no, this worked
I
out
just
just
kept
fine.
it this way. And plus, he canceled the land party. I didn't want you to have to drive all the way to Chanhassen for no reason. So.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye, all.
Bye.